Hi, John.
How's it going?
Not so great. I'm not feeling my best self.
I'll stop being a baby.
Okay, this is how we're going to start. That's
This how we
incompetence. That's incompetence, right? there.
Incompetence? How is that incompetence?
You are watching How Can You Say That? Segment 24. Tonight, we had selected a different topic, but decided it probably was not a good idea at this time. And so we've decided instead on incompetence. And since man-boy exhibits so many different layers and situations where the incompetence is blindingly glaring, I thought it would be a great idea to do a show on incompetence. And so tonight, thank you for watching us again, and we are going to be discussing incompetence.
Deep breaths. I have to take deep breaths to control myself and be calm around you. Honestly, it takes a lot. It's not easy. It's not easy. So anyway, all of these thoughts you just shared, we decided, we, there was no we. We actually, the we part was we were supposed to discuss Maui. That was the topic, but you were afraid that the government was going to come and assassinate you. And therefore you wanted to change topics to incompetence and lay the incompetence all on me. But we'll get into that in a little bit. I think we should have stayed with Maui and just dealt with the whatever the potential fallout is. But I think we did agree that we will get to Maui next week, correct?
I don't know why you make it sound like I'm some kind of a dictator who sits around here and dictates everything that we do, because that is very wrong, erroneous on many levels. And this is his way of trying to paint me as a bully. And
well, you are sometimes a bit of a podcast bully.
I try to keep up with you. So don't be
mad my shirt?
Because I beat you at your own game.
What do you think of my shirt?
I don't know what to think of your shirt. I guess he's advertising his wife is scared.
No, that wasn't the advertisement. You know who loves this shirt?
No, I don't know.
When I wore this shirt out in public, this was a huge hit with the minority population because they understand that this shirt represents
calling anybody minority. I don't, John. You.
A minority means there's less in numbers. It's a mathematical term. It's not a racial term, it's a mathematical term.
No, wait, why
Jewish people are minorities also.
Right
but can I finish a sentence? Or are you going to cut me off right away? Right away we start the podcast with you cutting me off. The point of the shirt was that it's popular with minorities because the shirt refers to a Karen, which is a white privileged woman that always goes on the verbal attack against minorities. So every time the minorities see me wearing the shirt, they love it. They come over like, where'd you get that shirt? I love that shirt. It's a great shirt. So that's what I was bringing up. Go ahead.
Minority, Jonathan. We did a show before when we first started, and I had a talk with you about this whole minority thing.
A stern talk.
And I think that tonight you caught yourself with your foot in your mouth, and then you tried to tell me you were referring to numbers, not
that's what
people who are lesser important than the majority.
Majority and minority, more of and less than. It's a numerical equation.
Okay, John, I'm not going to.
Well, if Spanish people were the majority in this country, they would not be a minority anymore. So it is mathematical. There, I don't see how you can disagree with that.
I'm not disagreeing.
You want to paint me as a racist, but I'm not going to let you do that because I'm not a racist. And pointing out majority and minority are simply mathematical. Anyway, moving on. So can I mention what occurred last night before we get into this?
I don't know what occurred last night.
You don't know what occurred last night?
I would not discuss that here.
Okay, we're not going to discuss that. All right, when we get into our topic, tonight's topic is incompetence. And as many of you know...
Actually...
Are we changing topics?
No. What occurred last night? Maybe we can talk about it if... okay, let me tell what occurred and then you can bring in your bits to it. Since
we're already too off topic. Why don't we just skip it and get right into this?
Okay.
we can maybe touch on later in whatever.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. Okay. Anyway, so we're talking about incompetence. And the unfortunate thing is that this world, I guess because of human nature, is filled with incompetence. Yes, there is a lot of competence, but there's also a lot of incompetence. And there are certain forms of incompetence that are much more egregious than others. Some of them are non-events, and others are so drastic. I'll give you an example. I was reading the story the other day on YoU, and I guess this would have to do with medical incompetence, which is commonly actually referred to as malpractice. I was reading the story about this woman who was having terrible stomach cramps and pains, and she had blood in her stool when she went to the bathroom. And she went to all these doctors, and they all told her the same thing. Oh, it's hemorrhoids, it's this, it's that, it's nothing. Anyway, a year later, she finally went to another doctor that said, why don't we just do a colonoscopy? Did a colonoscopy. It turns out she had stage 3 colorectal cancer. So when we talk about incompetence, sometimes incompetence, depending on the profession that it's in, can actually be life-threatening. I mean, fortunately, she survived and they were able to treat her and stuff like that. But incompetence on the level of a doctor or a surgeon has dramatic life-altering consequences, and sometimes actually even results in death.
Well, I personally experience incompetence, so much of it lately that I'm starting to wonder, especially in bureaucracies and businesses, if there's any competent bureaucracies or establishments. I cannot tell you how much frustration. I've moved here from California, so I've had to interact with lots of different government agencies.
Oof.
Like AAA, I mean, not AAA, getting your driver's license,
DMV. Department of Motor Vehicles.
I became so stressed out because no one ever seems, starting with a moving company. They tell you one thing, they give you one price. We'd have to do a separate show on that, actually. It would be a good topic.
Why don't we not? Because that's not really an exciting topic. Movers.
Anyway, back to what I was trying to say. I read of a story a couple of weeks ago where this man who worked his entire life and saved all his money for his retirement, his estate started receiving letters. His name is Mr. Jones. I forgot the notes at work, so I don't have the details written down with me. But he started getting these notices canceling his estate. And when he called to check why his estate was being canceled.
Wait. I have to stop you. You only have an estate when you're dead.
Well, can I finish?
No, but
John, seriously, you can never be decent.
I just want to clarify something.
What I'm saying.
A person can't get notices about his estate because that means they're dead.
All right.
That's the only time you can have an estate is when you passed away. No, go ahead. Okay.
No, forget it.
No, go ahead. Go.
I told you not to interrupt me. I was making a point.
Okay.
Who raised you? Did you know I'm looking at your ears and it explains everything. Clearly you weren't brought up like me, you were dragged up. So by the evidence of the lobes, they're hanging on the side of your face. Anyway.
I don't even know what the hell that means.
Good, you can go and figure it out tonight. What I was trying to say before I was rudely interrupted, as I am every single week, is that Mr. Jones had been declared dead while he was still alive because someone in the social service office who was preparing his records selected and listed him dead. And he had a nightmare time trying to convince them that he wasn't dead, that he was Mr. Jones, and ended up spending countless hours, and he still couldn't resolve the issue and had to turn to 7 on your side to help him, to prove to them that he wasn't dead.
Is that the segment on the news, the 7 on your side? Is that?
I read it in the news, but I read it online.
I think it's like one of those like reporters that goes and.
I have since discovered this is happening to a lot of people, and I'm starting to think Is this incompetence or is this deliberate? I don't know, because lately, based on what's going on in the world, I have difficulty knowing what to believe anymore. And so if you're watching this, my advice to you is please not to depend on mainstream media. It's heavily surveilled and monitored, and nothing that is not intended for us to hear is allowed to be reported. And I know, because I posted something last night on YouTube,
I guess we are talking about it.
and it was pulled down.
Within hours.
I thought, wait, I see pornography on YouTube. I see people killing each other. I see all sorts of heinous,
That's all fine.
disgusting things. And what I posted was pulled down. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought I'm living in a democratic country where one of our privileges is freedom of speech.
Not anymore.
There was nothing obnoxious. There was nothing rude. There was no pornography. It was information that they don't want you to know about, because I was putting it out there because I know it and I got it from the source.
Actually, if you don't mind me saying, it was not only was it good information, it was coming from a source that was highly intelligent, highly reliable, and a scientist. And everything she was saying was based on medical science and facts. So why you would try to censor the truth is beyond me. But that's, again, part of a totally separate topic.
My video was pulled down and I was warned. I was given a ticket.
You were given a summons, if you will, by YouTube, and told that you can't post anything for another week with other threatening matters. But you know what? What I was saying is that incompetence could come from a couple of different things. One of them, it could be simply because we're human and people make mistakes. Incompetence is not, there is a mistake is not always incompetence. Sometimes it's literally just a mistake, and it just does happen because we're human. And then there's also incompetence that happens from what I would call a lack of experience, where people just don't know the difference. They don't know any better. And it may come across as being incompetent, but they're just learning. They're new at their job. Not everybody could come into a job and be perfectly fluent at exactly what they're supposed to do. There is a learning curve at time. So you have to differentiate between true incompetence, learning curve and lack of experience, and partial human nature, where people just are inclined to make mistakes because we're human.
Okay. There's several types of incompetence, and I checked a lot of them out. But because we switched the topic last minute, John pointed out in the last podcast how tacky I look reading from my notes. And so I had promised myself that I would spend enough time with my information that I didn't have to read it and look tacky, because
I never used the word tacky.
Because I don't.
I said unprofessional.
Okay.
It's worse, a lot worse.
However, tonight I'm going to read from my notes, and I hope you don't mind.
Oh no!
Change the topic.
No, not a note reading.
Some of the common causes of it.
We're going into class now in school.
Can be laziness, poor communication, lack of people skills, lack of training, and people who just don't care, and they have a lackadaisical attitude about everything.
Those are usually government employees.
Which ends up appearing to look like incompetence. But however, whether it's good or it's bad, it really can cause great havoc in people's lives when you're working with a system and you need many systems to work together to accomplish a particular goal. Because when one portion of the whole thing breaks down, it topples the whole cart and causes so much aggression and suffering for the people involved. So if you're gonna hire people, and you're gonna hire people who are not taking their job seriously, of course you are going to yield a lot of incompetence, and the person that is coming to you for the service, or going to the establishment like the DMV, is the person who will suffer.
So can I make a point on that? And you're right in what you're saying, and there is a very good reason for a lot of that. Government versus private industry. People that are in government generally are less competent than people that are in private industry, because in private industry, you're held to account. If you don't do your job properly, you get fired. If you do your job properly, you get rewarded with a raise, with promotions. In the government, promotions are based on longevity. They're not based on quality. And there's literally no incentive to do better. You have a pay scale. Whether you do your job well or you do your job shitty, you're still getting your pay raises according to your scale and your contract. So you do tend to find a lot more lackadaisical employees due to a lack of incentive on the government side. And I just think also government tends to pay a lot less than private industry. So I think by nature, you're getting less qualified people, less intelligent people, because they would be capable of going to the private side and making a lot more money. So there's actually a justification for that, in my opinion.
I have a friend who had signed up with Social Security for medical insurance because their family lost their job and was very sick, and signed up and got the medical card, went to the doctor, and was sent home because somebody made a mistake on his Social Security number. Although he had given them the correct number, when they were putting it in the system, they put the wrong number. And it took forever. It took him in his illness to have to go stand and wait at their office to correct something they had done wrong. And he almost died because he wasn't able to see it.
Once you get tangled up in government bureaucracy, you're done. To get out is just impossible, especially like identity theft and stuff like that. You could unravel this disaster for a year. And a lot of times, identity theft even happens because of incompetence as well, but incompetence by the person whose social security number it is. A lot of, like, for example, older people, a lot of times, they get taken in by these scams over the phone. Like I know a person that will just simply give out her social security number over the phone to people that ask. It doesn't even matter. And a lot of people have victimized her and hacked her checking account, things like that, because she's just vulnerable. So people sometimes are incompetent on their own. That causes these disasters to occur because of mistakes that they made. Again, partially because of human nature, sometimes because of age and just making mistakes. I'll give you an example, a personal example. So maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I don't remember how long ago, my wife had gone to a doctor, and she was having some sort of, I don't know, it was a breathing issue, I don't know, something. And the doctor suggested doing a biopsy. And it was actually a lung biopsy, which he was doing in his office. And maybe it wasn't, maybe something close to the lungs. I don't remember what it was. For whatever reason, he accidentally punctured her lung during the biopsy. And all of a sudden, she started having labored breathing. This is in her medical office, actually in Long Beach, where he used to be. And he said, "Oh, no, you're fine." And she goes, "No, I'm telling him, I'm like struggling to breathe." And anyway, long story short, they ended up calling the ambulance. She was rushed to the hospital, and he had actually punctured her lung through a biopsy. And she spent 3 days in the hospital recovering. Now, the doctor came to visit and was beyond, apologetic. And this is a doctor who'd been a doctor for like 35 years, really well-known doctor, notes all over his wall about, surgeries that he did and how thankful people were that they saved their lives and stuff like that. But that was just an incompetent thing that happened. And then to almost deny that there was a problem, she could have died.
Well, was that an incompetent thing or was that an error? Because, sometimes we have to still allow people to be human.
No.
Humans
No,
make mistakes.
I do not allow for mistakes or for humanity.
Anyway, I think, and please don't shoot me because I've been doing my research. I've done like 3 weeks of every day, 3-4 hours watching the videos of the people in Maui. And I think there is a huge example of incompetence. This is not the show on Maui, but
You're making it
made
one.
some notes about the level of incompetence that the residents who survived the fire have been consistently reporting. And this is after I watched, I would say maybe close to 30 different people reporting on what happened that
But
day.
you're going to say there's incompetence versus deliberate conspiracy. So
Well,
it may not be incompetence at all. It may have been completely deliberate. But that's our next show. Let's not do it. But let's not do that now. That we
no, I would like to do it as part of tonight, and we will have more notes for the next show. But to me, the topic is incompetence, and I will tell you what they've said, and you decide. You decide what you think happened. Okay? Here's what they listed. All of them. I wrote this for everyone that I watched said the same thing. There were no emergency sirens, although they have them on the island. The school was canceled. The water was shut off.
This is before the fire. Before the fire.
This is the day of the fire. The firefighters were not able to access the water. The police barricaded the road, and when people tried to escape, the police stopped them and forced them back to the fire. The police officers allegedly said he was under orders not to allow cars that formed the barricade to be removed so people could get out. Right there. What is that? Is that incompetence?
No.
Or is that a deliberate attempt to kill these people?
Deliberate conspiracy.
You tell me. I am not saying either way. I'm just telling you what they said. I'm sure you've seen it yourself. The other thing is the temperature of the fire melted the rims of car tires. But everything blue in the vicinity was untouched. Blue cars, there was a blue t-shirt in a home that all was left were ashes, but the blue t-shirt did not burn. There were also blue umbrellas that people had outside in their yards. Those did not burn. They said that unnamed, I'm not calling the names, the names were mentioned. But I don't want
famous
you
people
to
had blue roofs
to pull this video down to you. So I'm just reporting what happened. Apparently, we're not allowed to do that anymore. I did not see the law where they took away freedom of speech.
You're going to get us both killed.
But apparently, it has been taken away, and nobody didn't tell me. I'm so sorry. Anyway, they said unnamed celebrities who lived right next door to where the fire was, blue roofed homes. Nothing was touched. So, is this incompetence? Or what is this?
No, it's not incompetence. You're painting a picture of conspiracy. That's not incompetence.
I am not painting any pictures. I'm reporting what the residents of Maui said.
But all of these
on that day.
But all of these events, when you put them together, is a deliberate conspiracy. That's not incompetence. Incompetence is somebody screwing something up. This was an intentional, by design, action for certain purposes, which we will cover in our next show. You're going to get us both killed by the government before we could even do our next show.
Well, if the government has a good reason to kill me, they can come and do that.
But I don't need them killing me.
I'll tell them how to find me. So anyway,
can we go back to it?
No, I wasn't finished, Johnson. But in the meantime, all of these people are wondering what happened to the children. It has been reported over 1,000 children cannot be accounted for. So what is that, Jonathan?
You already said it's conspiracy.
Incompetence, gaslighting, conspiracy.
If I knew how to spell, I would write it, but I can't spell conspiracy.
See, John, don't tell me you can't spell. You're being funny.
No, I really can't spell. I swear. Why do you think? If I was going to write conspiracy, I'd write like this. And I'd go like this because I don't know how to spell the rest. I swear the words. You can't teach. It's an innate. I have an innate blockage to spelling. Well, I have another big incompetency thing. Guys, sometimes I have to pull you back. You start to go into another topic, which again we'll go into.
Sitting here like promoting conspiracies, but you know what? We need to take the box of Band-Aids. The Band-Aids called conspiracy. I wrote them down.
Can you save this for the next episode on Maui? This is incompetence. This is incompetence. What's happening right here in front of me is incompetence. Going completely off topic. You know what's in real incompetence?
No, it's not
parenting. Parenting. You know how much incompetence there is in parenting these days? And you know the ramifications of poor parenting, disasters that it causes? I was listening to a podcast on the way to the studio today, and they were talking about parents and how they're busying their children these days in the year 2023. And they were talking about screen time and how parents are just giving their children devices, whether it's phones or tablets, at starting at age 1, just to keep them busy, and the amount of time that these children are spending on these devices and what the long-term effects are. They were talking about a study that showed the more screen time. This was a study with like 7,000 or 8,000 babies that were followed for a number of years. They were talking about the developmental status of these children, their mental development, their intelligence, their cognitive abilities were all impacted by the more screen time they had, the more they were adversely impacted. You know, what happened to the days where my childhood was spent outside? I was playing sports. I was riding a bike. I was playing with friends outside. Yeah, I watched some TV here and there, but it wasn't like the focal point of anything. Kids don't even watch TV anymore. They're just on their device watching whatever it is, watching YouTube, watching our podcast. I heard a lot of young children watch our podcast also. It's become very popular with young children.
Stop dreaming.
But the point that I'm bringing is that parents are raising their children all wrong.
Jonathan, before this podcast, we had a discussion about you and your judgments. Can I say something that Jonathan is oblivious to? Jonathan can afford to pay to have his wife stay at home with his children. So when you have a parent, I was fortunate to stay home and raise my kids. I didn't have to leave them with babysitters.
So same situation I had.
Yeah.
So let's make it sound like mine's negative.
But what I'm trying to say, I'm not refuting.
We're both Karens in that regard.
Okay, John, carry on. Forget it.
No, you're making a point.
No, forget it.
Are we not allowed to have dialogue back and forth? I didn't realize everything goes into a monologue and no, the other person's not allowed to talk.
Are so rude that when a person is at the point of making a really good critical point, you come in and you interrupt. So they have to stop and listen to what you're saying, and then they forget what they were trying to say before you rudely interrupted, because you lack the social graces of knowing when to interrupt someone and when not to. I can't teach you the spell and teach you social graces. That's something that your wife and your mother will have to help you with. I have enough to do with. Anyway, you and I were fortunate to have you have a wife, and I had a husband who allowed me to stay home and raise our kids. But everybody, you realize the world we're living in today, everybody's not you. Everyone doesn't have your life.
It's a shame.
Some homes have parents that both have to go to work. And when both parents have to go to work, how then can they be perfect parents? They come home tired. They have homework. Sometimes they have 3, 4 kids. They hardly have anything left for themselves. They have to eat, get ready to do the same thing the next day. It's easy for people like you to sit on your high horse and judge the crap out of everybody else because you don't understand that not everybody lives in the little glass case house that you live in.
Let me come to my own defense here for a second. And that is, I went to work every day. I've been working at the same job for 30 years, and I raised 3 children. And when I came home, what I did was I put my shit down, I ate dinner, and I spent the rest of the night with my kids. I'd be in their beds with them. I'd be outside with them. I'd be rolling around the house with them. I'd be playing with them when they were younger, when they were older. Like, my life revolves around my children when I'm in the house. I don't do like me time. The only me time I do is this podcast practically.
Okay, so John.
I mean, my kids are older now, but I'm just saying when I had children, I made a decision. Well, my wife made the decision she'd rather be at home because she wouldn't leave the kids with a babysitter because she felt she should be raising her own children. I agree with that. My philosophy was I'm the one that has to be the breadwinner to go to work, but my life revolved around my children from the minute I walked in the door. I didn't go out with my friends, go out drinking and go to strip club. I went to a few strip clubs. Okay, but for the most part, my life was my children. And we never took a vacation without our children. We never did activities without taking our children.
You're Jewish. You are very Jewish. What's the word?
But that has nothing to do with it.
What's the word?
It's not a religious thing.
Kosher Jew, right? And your religion dictates that you practice certain behaviors. The majority of the people I know, and the majority of people are not Jewish like you.
I'm going to convert you right now. I'm going to give you a blessing and convert you. We're gonna come back on the part 2 of this with Jenny's conversion.
Thank you for watching. How can you say that? The podcast where we are raw and authentic, and where boy annoys the hell out of me.
Baruch atah.
And we will be right back.
Shema Yisrael.